Then you switch back. Oh, okay, now. Damn, they weren't hearing us. Then you switch back. Oh, okay, now. Oh, they were out. Alright, you want to tell that again? Oh my god. So, so you started this as far as the germination of an idea, and you talked about a song building off of that, and then realizing a bigger thing. Boomers were being called boomers. I'm the only boomer here, I'm sure.
One of her paws, and then you're going to see the staff again and her other paw. So you know she's going over there, but it just builds the tension of the scene, and it scares the robber, and he turns around and he threatens her. Well, she uses the staff to knock the guy's leg. Well, you don't really realize that it's her specifically yet until she starts taking action against the guy. So it's all I like building things more than that. And I've told every artist I've worked with on stuff that I don't care how many panels it takes to get the scene. I'd rather you have an extra page instead of taking things out of a the whole story, because I want people to see what is in my head, because for me, like, I hate it, this is going to sound super sad, but like the end of this, like if this becomes a movie or whatever, if it's just a comic book, the end of this comic book, I will fucking cry. Like, in my head I can visualize it, and I have to stop myself before I get too far, because it is just so sad to me, there and different scenes that I have, and it's just like I want other people to get punched in the gut just as much as I want to read this. And no one's listening. No one's listening, man.
No, I won't even tell you what was going on, but they could hear me, but they couldn't hear you, and I
Oh,
fixed it. But they could hear you telling the story, but for a little
okay.
bit there, they couldn't.
Okay, let's break it down again. I ran a lot, and then stuff came in my head, and then it became a story. There you go. See, beautiful.
Can you guys hear us both? Let's see if we get somebody to answer.
Hey, you little knucklehead, say something.
Yeah, chat if you can hear us both. Okay, good. Um, so let's go back. What are your influences as far as writing go?
I don't have any. It's like I like as far as reading, I used to read Stephen King. I haven't read too much his stuff lately, just because it's not that he like his person like his political stuff annoys me. It's just it tainted it a little. So it's like I admit that I like his stuff, but it's like it's new stuff. I don't follow him on Twitter anymore because I can't deal with that. So I don't see what's coming out. There's a book called The Truth Machine by I think it's John Halpern, which was a fantastic book. But like overall, I don't really have influences of like any specific writer, even comic books. Um, this character, I'd say, if anything, like any influence on the character at all was the Ip Man movies, which was the crap, I can't remember his name. I just was watching clips of it. Basically, it's the guy who created Wing Chun Kung Fu,
Yeah, yeah, I know who you're
A-
talking about. Yeah.
and I like the first one and the second one as far as the fight scenes. The third one kind of got a little off the rails when Mike Tyson showed up. I don't know, but it was one of those things where I liked the movement of it all. I loved that it felt really flowing, but it was dangerous. And I started like looking at different fighting styles, and I was like, okay, Bruce Lee's got Jeet Kune Do, but then you have like Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, you have capoeira, and I wanted this. I don't know if it would be a species, this group of people, because it's like animal people. I don't know what you would consider. I'm just going with species, but this species of people have villages all over this this world, which I'm not really. I'm like, do I make it like Pangea, or is it like a video game land where it's all just one big landmass and you kind of go around? But these people will have little villages spread around all over. So they're gonna. It's not just them developing the fighting skills. It's taking aspects of other fighting skills and pulling it into it. Since if you like talk to fighters, they're like, yeah, this is really excellent, but in certain situations, you're not going to be able to. Like if you're a boxer, if you go up against a guy who can put you on the ground, you're not going to be able to do the amount of damage you could if you were standing. So it's my idea for this is each fight she's going to adapt to the situation since she's a 14-year-old girl, and if you go up a guy like, okay, we have common sense. A guy punches a 14-year-old girl. I don't care how skilled and trained she is going to feel that a lot. So it's more or less kind of knowing how to fight somebody who's you're the world that this exists in. Fighting is outlawed and weapons are outlawed, except by it's like feudal Japan where that's where kung fu and karate and everything erupted from, and weapons were like farm weapons. So they took away the real weapons, but then people started developing fighting with those tools.
Right. You
As far Go ahead.
you're going to be doing this the last Snow Leopard book with John Dillard, right?
This first issue, at the very least, that's the plan. Like
Right.
we're gonna do where he's gonna do a six, whatever they call it, pages. I call it pages. I know that you get that, like artists use a different term for it, like as far as comics, sequentials. That's it.
Right, right. Interiors, right.
Yeah, and the section he's doing is from the middle of one issue because I didn't want to bore anybody, but I didn't want to show the hardest part of the best part of the action, which depending on what kind of fight you like seeing, you're gonna you might like the one that we're showing you more than the one right after it.
Now you're doing 6 pages with him for the purpose of using those six pages as a campaign.
Yes, we're gonna start an Indiegogo from that amount, and I that's and I have to talk to everybody who's putting out campaigns because I don't know the best way to not only word it because I've tried like Kickstarter campaigns stuff like that, and I am ignorant as all hell on it. So it's like I want to make sure it's the rewards are rewarding for the people who would buy it. I want to make sure the price point covers John, but also me to a degree. But mostly, I want to make sure the book itself is covered. If I don't get paid up front on it, I don't care. I want to make sure John gets paid and make sure that the comic actually gets physically made.
I have a suggestion for you. Go through the Indiegogo and just either screen grab or do screenshots on your phone and screenshot those tiers. And you'll notice that people call them different things or they word them differently. Um, and see what John also would be willing to do, obviously, but get an idea of a feel for some of the successful campaigns and the types of tiers that they've had. One of the tiers that seems to be popular is like buy one book for yourself, but two for like overseas to the troops or something like that. That seems to
Oh,
be a
okay, that's a good.
popular. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what. But it's like I want to talk to people who like you who actually know what the hell these things are supposed to look like.
Well, you're giving me a lot of credit there, Chris. I'm not so sure that I
Well,
deserve it.
I'm going with scale. Like I'm like I am below rock bottom. So and even if you're like as low as a snake's belly, you're still above me.
Yeah.
Look
Well,
look at all that credit.
I've never. Well, actually, I did start one. It was with a publisher that we did one, but it wasn't 24 hours before we ended up closing it because he threw in some books that he had as far as giveaways, and I was asking
Yeah.
questions like, okay, you're actually like buy this issue and we're gonna give you these things for free, and so I was like, are you giving these guys money? Because you actually have a tier here where you're advertising them. So these are things I need to know.
Oh,
Um,
okay, I got you.
so it started to create sort of a riff because a lot of the tiers that I had suggested were ignored. He did use a really good resource to build those tiers. Somebody who has sort of cachet in the indie comics business, but he completely ignored what I was willing to do as far as to drive our book and get that dollar sign up there a little bit. So I was just like, dude, can you give me some some idea here of why you went off of our plan to just follow exactly what Bob Sally said. And Bob Sally's a really nice guy. He'll give out free information. He's had plenty of successful campaigns. He's local to he's a Boston creator. I've met him. I've seen him. I've talked to him. So I would not suggest, I mean, I certainly suggest anybody use him as a resource, and I wasn't against that, but some of the things that I was willing to do as far as time and sketches and sketch covers and all that, they were just completely not there when I looked the next day, and I'm like, holy frick, you know what I mean? So
Oh yeah.
I started to look at it as like, you're really not so interested in paying me. You're really interested in just getting this book funded to the point of paid for. And this to me was me willing to hustle my ass off for money that would say this was worth my time because I did all of the production work. I did all the pages that were being showed in the campaign. I did all the character designs, a bunch of development and stuff like that. And I was never going to recoup that time, you know, but I was
Yeah.
hoping to get it sort of back by having a really successful campaign that allowed that. And these are questions he wouldn't answer. So you know what? I just you know, I said, hey, this doesn't fly with me. We're gonna have to either talk about this or make some changes to the campaign. Next thing you know, he's sending me like hateful texts. So
Oh God.
I just started screenshotting everything he was saying and putting it in a post. And I'm like, this is what I'm dealing with. Including in that post, all in the comments, I was like, I did this for development. I did this for design. I did this design. I did this. This is how many promos I've already done. I was like, look at the work I did, and this guy won't even answer questions. So it really made him look bad, and you really don't see his, you know, it almost looked like he was about to create a low tier publishing company that was going to be really good.
Yeah.
After after my post and after that, then I started hearing other people having problems, and you barely see his name. I'm not saying he's done, but he's not as successful as he was about to be until he burned my bridge, basically. And you know, he just sort of took a big nosedive. Now, granted, he's still hustling and it still exists as a company, but man, I was really pissed, you know. And but I didn't, you know, I didn't ever. One thing I didn't do is come back at him with anger. You know,
Yeah.
I handled it perfectly as far as a professional because I knew by screenshotting his IMs that I was going to be putting myself out there as somebody who has a problem with a publisher, but I was going to put out exactly what I was saying and how it was, you know, how the conversation started and where it went from there, you know.
Yeah. The guy's Dunzo.
So don't ever do anything at what the hell is her name? IC Comics. IC? Ugh, Insane Comics. Forget them.
I, for some reason, I think I've seen that like when I was looking for who's publishing and everything like that, and I don't, I because I didn't have, I okay, I thought I had a product, I didn't have a product yet, so I was like, I can't just go to these people, hey, look at this stuff, it's party.
Well, you know what? Nothing showcases a good book, you know, more than good art. If somebody's looking at good art, they're gonna go, okay, let's read this. If you're just gonna send, you know, if you send a publisher, you send anybody, including putting on a campaign, mediocre art, and that's the first thing they see. That's the first glimmer of what of your campaign is this banner or this header, and it's in the title, and they're going, okay, I don't need to look at this any further. That'll
Yeah, it's John was looking at some of the campaigns for through that IndieCron website,
right.
and I'm looking at them, and they're saying they look deeper than I would have. Like, because like you said, that first image, if it looks like crap, you're not gonna go deeper than that. It's just like a the first song of an album. If it's trash, it's you don't usually you'll if you like the band, yeah. But if it's just some regular random band and you're just like, what the hell is this? And you could miss something really cool, but you blow your chance on that initial impression.
And you know what? Once you do that, once you blow that chance, I'm really not sure about the information that I'm about to say, but I've seen people try and try again with the same artists, the same team, even sometimes the same book, and say, okay, we'll just add more pages. Or my artist has gotten better, so let's just show different pages. And the campaign never gets past that point. They try it three, four times before they're really actually. I know a guy who I almost worked with on a project. His American Kingdom project was like that, and I actually liked his artist. Now, I thought there were some things this artist could do to help better his work, but he was American Kingdom was not successful three or four times out, and then eventually. got successful. So he learned a lot in that time, you know. But yeah, sometimes campaigns kind of go through that, you know. And hopefully, with John, I mean, John's art is really good. Um, you won't have any of those troubles, you know. But
Well, it's like if it, I want to more or less, I just want to get the comic done, and it's like if I have to slowly grind away at this through spending my paychecks, it's one of those things. I just want to get ideas out of my head so they're not there anymore.
one thing that I'll lend myself to is a promo piece, be- a piece that really shines with really good coloring, so that you have something that sort of lights up a little bit as somebody's scrolling through your campaign. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know if you plan to get those 5 pages or 6 pages colored of John's, but I'll do some kind of promo piece for you so that we can get something that they see that is you know, fully colored and stuff like that. But hopefully, I mean, I would personally, I would not. Uh, I mean, I see people do it, but putting black and white up there when your intention is the color is like throwing a mystery up there.
Yeah. I sent you a link on Twitter for the Pinterest. If you, I don't know if you can screen share at all, but that'll show you kind of, or even if it's just you just want to look at it.
Yeah, yeah, I'll look at it. Yeah, I can screen share, but
D-
I did. I don't know if I was just gonna just sort of just me and you talk a little bit, get to
oh
know
no,
each
that's
other.
fine.
Yeah, but I don't know if I can screen share from Pinterest. That's a good question.
If not, even if you just look at it, you could see kind of what what I've gotten as far as checked up there. And the people at home don't get to look because there's naughty bits in there.
Oh, really?
No, not really, but
And you
still.
wanted me to screen share. You're trying to get
Oh
me.
yeah,
You're right.
you go against YouTube's terms of service. Get the hell out of here.
I'm coming out of the gate here. I can't be getting in trouble right away.
That's what minds.com and I'd say Gab, but apparently that doesn't exist anymore.
So, as far as your writing and storytelling and stuff, what makes you choose comics, by the way?
Uh, Honestly, I hate saying this because a lot of people will say this is that I wanted to make these into movies, but it's a matter of I didn't have the experience with scripting and everything. And then as I was watching like Diversity in Comics and Ethan Van Sciver and a few other people, like just some guy, I was watching them and I was seeing okay, that this is a possibility, especially once Diversity in Comics started doing his Kickstarter. I saw that this was a possibility. Not so much like if I can make a fortune, that's fantastic. But it's not so much make the fortune, but I want to make the product, and like I want it to be something that people can get in their hands and like see what's in my brain. Like if you look at my script, not because you don't have to like, go through the whole thing, but if you look at my script, I try to break it down as taking images from a full animated thing and pulling out what's what's needed for so anybody who's reading it can get an idea of exactly what I want to do. Like if somebody gets punched, I could write out that like where it hits and everything, and somebody could read that and they're like, okay, I can see that. But if you see somebody's jaw, like when somebody gets really cold cocked in a fight and they do like slow motion, and you watch the guy's head snap, I want people to see that so they get that visceral response to it, like holy hell, that dude just got knocked out.
You
Or I
do,
want people to see what like I want the danger to be like to build in it.
so you like the obvious showcasing whatever your story is, but seeing it visually at the same time. So writing prose really doesn't. um, is not really something you're interested in as far as telling these types of stories.
Oh, I'm trash at prose. Like, like it's terrible. I'll be upfront and honest. I used to write porn stories for people.
Whoa,
I'm a smut peddler.
whoa.
So but for me, my prose was always boring as hell to me because it's always you could describe something, you get a thesaurus out and all that, but it's you have to go from each thing is like an action. You go, and then this person did this, and then this person does this in response to that, and it to me that is boring as all hell to read. I want I like in my head it all looks like a fight scene looks fantastic. But if I break that down, it's just like how many times are you gonna say that the person did a roundhouse kick or like hit him in the way? It just to me it was boring and I wouldn't want to read it.
So let me ask you, you don't really currently you don't read anything, right?
Uh, I haven't read anything lately. No.
What's the last good thing you read?
You said
Non-smut, anything that's
non
non.
smut. I'd have to say nothing. If it's not smut, let me. I'm gonna pull up my iBooks and see what the hell is in there because it'll tell me what the hell I just read because I can't remember. I have a very bad memory. Like I can read a book and like go back to it like the next year, and I will not remember that I read that book.
Wow.
I think I have some kind of dementia already.
Do you um do you read graphic novels? Do you read trade paperbacks? Do you go sit in Barnes and Noble and read a
I
little bit?
haven't in I haven't in a long time. Like I had my comic collection, like graphic novels and everything, and I decided to trust my brother to pay his storage facility bill.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and I gave him money for it, and he decided to not pay it, and the, all of a sudden storage wars happened,
Right. They auctioned off
and
all your shit.
yeah, so I lost all my like. Okay, no, it's right now people collect LPs, but I collected like tons of LPs. I had comic books. I had sports cards. I had like the whole collection of like those Marvel trading cards. The Jim Lee drew. I don't know if Jim Lee drew them all, but he had his name on a lot of them. And I had all had it all in there, and now I have none of it. So
Jim
it's more or
Lee,
less.
he had his own set, by the way. Do you remember the X-Men set
Yeah, I
with the?
didn't see, and I didn't know if that was strictly Marvel, if it was X Men, because the only ones I have right now are like four, and like two of them are bad guys, and two of them are good guys.
Yeah, he did anything related to X-Men. He did the villains. He did all the dead and alive X-Men. It was a huge set, and there were some gold chromium cards that made up a sort of a one sheet. Uh, no, there were gold chromium cards, but there was cards that made up one big scene in the Danger Room with about
Yeah, I
10 or
remember
12.
those.
Yeah,
I think that was in the storage facility.
yeah.
No, I like I had like the death of the Superman, like the the Saran wrap ones or whatever the hell it was, like the ones that were in the bags. And then I got all the collectors for the new Superman when they were coming out and all that. And I'm trying to think. I think that's right around the time that the storage facility was not paid for.
Wow.
But what can you do?
Well, I used to have 25 long boxes, and I don't anymore, but we won't go into that.
It was a sad time in Boston.
No, 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 not a sad time. No, 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 no.
It
It
was a
was,
happy time in Boston.
yeah, I was done moving them. You know what I mean?
Ah, I
I mean,
gotcha.
I actually, I live, I bought a house about 8 years ago in the studio, which you've seen, me drawing in or whatever. There used to
Mhm.
be a closet, and that closet was filled head to toe, crisscross, so that they didn't, crush the boxes and stuff. And there was about 20 in there. But I wanted to utilize that closet, so I was like, this is the last time I'm moving them. And 90% of them, I moved them for sale. I have very little left.
And that's okay, and it's all for references.
No, that you wouldn't believe the stuff I kept.
That's why I kept all those Playboys.
I kept Xenozoic Tales and some Joe Quesada stuff. I was really into Joe Quesada. Um, but not much else, I have all my trade paperbacks, all my graphic novels. So that's what makes up the big 10% is all that stuff. The stuff that I keep on a shelf that's thicker. Um, but yeah, as far as single issue floppy comics, I kept about like a 0.5%.
0.5%. That's more than Elizabeth Warren is a Native American.
There you go. So you didn't you try to work with the artists before? Weren't you talking about that on John Dillard Gaming the
Yeah.
System show? Everyone, please subscribe to John Dillard show.
Like, subscribe, click the bell button for notifications,
Notifications, yeah,
and
and
other
leave
things
nasty comments.
as nasty as you can think of. Yeah, I worked with a guy doing character designs. Just like if I come up with a character, I'd go to him because I liked his art style. He was reasonably priced. He churned stuff out like super fast, and I've been working with him, Jesus, at least a decade. And I'm like, okay, I got this comic book idea. I've got like, he's already done prelim stuff for it, so he knows kind of what the character's gonna look like. And I'm like, I am gonna gamble the hell out of this. I'm giving him like the full retainer right now. I asked him what he would need to do it, and he's like, I need this much. I was like, okay, I'm doing it. Like, I want to get this done. I want to chuck this out here. Like, I just want to get the first part. So, like, I wanted to get the whole comic done as a sketch, so I could start from there and start working towards an Indiegogo of like getting two or three of the pages colored and inked and everything, and put those up there as the showcase pieces, and then go from there. And he, I don't know what's going on with the guy, but I think that avenue is dead at this point. So it's like I've I've made peace with the fact that that money is gone.
Yeah.
If it's not gone, that's fantastic. But I'm at the point where 2 grand is out of my hand.
Well, let me tell you a little story. I've started at least four different projects that have, they either get to a point where I've actually drawn 4 or 5 to even 10 pages of sequentials, and then sort of not seen eye to eye with the writer. But one and only time did I flake out on a writer who is a really decent guy. There's me and him as far as our ability to get along was fine, but there were some certain things he was a little bit pushy about artwork wise, and I really tried to do this and I found it hard to do, but he wanted to pay homage to a friend who passed away
Mm-hmm.
and him to be a character in the book. And I got to the point where like that became sort of hard for me to live up to his vision as far as even body language and things like that. Like I can
Oh
draw,
Jesus.
yeah, I can certainly draw what they call uh, uh, properties. Like for instance, Star Wars. I can draw, like Luke, and I can do all these things to do with celebrities and stuff. And likenesses is the word I was looking for. I can draw likenesses, but this became a little tricky, and I just started to feel sort of this, like I was never gonna live up to this, you know. But
Jeez,
but the guy is a nice guy, and I flaked on him, and you know, I certainly didn't give him the value of what he gave me as far as money.
mm-hmm.
But not, but you know, I did put a lot of work in and created some characters, or sort of drew his characters in my style to show him first. And then I started working on the pages of the book that I would start on because he had a different artist for about 2 issues. So I started to draw these pages, and I started to realize this guy is a little difficult to work with in that sense. Definitely a nice guy. I would work with him again if it was a create from scratch project where we both were sort of vested interest in it. But I knew I was never going to live up to what he was looking for in drawing these characters and this particular whole idea, you know.
Yeah, and that puts you in a difficult situation either way. Like with this is like Siphon. That's my baby. Like the one I have developed so far that like I I know what her personality is. But for me, it's not so much I demand that it has to look this specific way. Like if I have a fight scene or just a scene in general, and John comes at me and he goes, "This is what you had is good, but I want to show you something that I think works better, like as far as visually."
Right.
I'm gonna take his input and go, you know what, that does look better, or no, I still want to stick with what I have, but if you can tweak it some way to make it better. But it's like a fight scene. If somebody understands a fight scene better than me, that's fantastic. I'd rather, but either that or just a visual, like of the outside of a building, like what angle you're looking at it. If they have that kind of visual acuity where they go, oh yeah, this will tilt the view like over across the street so it looks this much better. I'm like, okay, that works for me.
Yeah, John's a good artist. His style isn't fully realized quite yet. 'Cause sometimes you'll see something and you go, "Wow, that is awesome." So he does this thing where I put a certain amount of detail into whatever I feel like at the moment. So when I say he hasn't fully realized his style, he hasn't just fully just succumbed himself in what he's going to do as far as detail and do that consistently every time so that when you look at John, you go, that's a John. Oh, that's a John, and that's a John, and that's a John. Sometimes that's not quite, he's not really quite at that point where he's giving it everything he has every single time. Because sometimes, you know, granted, he's just sketching or he's just doing this or he's just doing that. But um, you have to show a certain consistency in your work and so that people go, like you become like a fingerprint. Okay,
Yeah.
every time you see a Todd picture, you're going, man, that looks like Todd. I think that's his. I mean, it looks a little bit like this. It looks a little bit about like this guy because you can see some of my influences. But but this artwork right here looks just like what I've seen of him. And I don't. I think John will eventually um, sort of fully realize his style. And once he does, you'll see some amazing things come out of his hand.
He's evolving.
Now, what is your plan? Like, what kind of book is this as far as lengthwise? And I'll talk a little bit about that.
That I wasn't sure. Like the scene that he is doing now is 6 pages long, and then it's a full, like if you're looking at an issue, it's like here's a chapter of this book. It's not the whole thing's not going to be like 150 pages. I sent him a just a synopsis of the script so he has an idea of like it's just going to take like 40 pages or something like that, but I get the feeling it's going to be between 45 and 60 pages.
So this is that's sort of graphic novel length. So this is standalone.
This is like one issue. What my plan is that each issue is going to be self-contained so you can read it, you can enjoy it, and you won't feel that you've missed out on something by not having read the others, but you want to read the others because this thing was really cool. Like there's the it's basically it's like a TV show in a sense where you have like a mini series. Like you'll have the beginning of the mini series and then you have the end of it. But in between, they go on like little side journeys of like, we're gonna tell you about this dumbass over
Oh,
going to be her progressing within the story.
now do you have like do you have this other guys that you do you have some artwork from this other artist that you worked with who kind of flaked out on you?
Yes, I have not only character stuff, but I also have the stuff like the pages that he created. As I said, this is the guy who like leaves out panels or sections because he doesn't I don't like I said, I don't think he understands cinematically how you have to lead people to something. You have to start like if something gets knocked over, you have to remember that that thing got knocked over, but you have to go back now and figure out how that thing got knocked over, and you tell the story of how the stupid ass thing got knocked over. So with it, no one cares about the thing, but he what I would do is I scripted it out, and then he sent me pages. Uh, can't remember. I think with my edits to the pages, there would be 11 pages that he's done, and I think it's going to be like a 22 to 25 page thing. But what I did was I did storyboarding as best as I can, and I am terrible. I like a stick figure everywhere. But I basically took every panel he did and made it into its own image, and then I put it all to put each page together how I wanted it. I'm like, this is exactly what I want. I'm using like I'd say I used about 75% of what he drew because I didn't want to create a thing of friction of like, no, I need you to do this and no, I need you to do that. It's just I wanted to make it as simple for him because the stuff he did was usable, but it was like some of the stuff like he did. If you can you look at that Pinterest for a second, and I can tell you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what. Do. Everybody who's watching right now, you don't get to see the coolness.
Oh, I'm going on hold on, I'm going on where did you say oh here it is. Yeah, I'm going on it on my phone.
Oh, okay.
The last snow leopard. Got you. Those are your stick figure layouts? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, and if you go down, you can actually see like actual art.
Right. Right.
Why is it
Oh yeah,
stupid
yeah.
ass thing just scrolled down on its own? I don't know what's going on. Uh, there's a page
It's
about
very simple style.
yeah
No.
about I don't know if you're on your phone. I'm not sure what it is, but there's gonna be a picture that says swing, thwack, ducking, and moving. It's page 4, if that helps. It's if you're coming from the top down.
Yeah.
The one next to it where it's actually
Okay, I see.
that's what I needed him to do as far as I wanted two guys coming at her. One guy swinging down, he's gonna miss. He's gonna be kind of hunched over because he missed.
Yeah.
She's gonna stomp on the baton he's trying to hit her with, so he like traps her. She traps his fingers under it, and then the other guy swings and she ducks under that, and the guy gets hit. The guy who swung down gets hit in the face, and I needed him to do that as the sequence of panels. And instead of doing that, he drew something entirely different, which it wasn't bad drawings, but I wanted it to be more like an action movie where it's all choreographed. So it's kind of hard to describe, but
No, I get it. I get what you're trying to do. you realize you really when you choreograph fights like that,
Mhm.
I mean you're using a cinematic eye and you're saying, you know, and then this and then that. It really is tricky for artists to interpret static shots. I mean, because basically what you're trying to do is create that movement, but it sort of falls in between what they call the gutters. So you see, it's almost like, okay, this frame, and like 600 frames later, we're going to see this frame, and like 600 frames later, we're going to see this frame, because
Yeah.
that's really tricky to do the way you write it out like that. Like, you're like, because what is the focus point? I can figure it out. Okay, so when he steps on the baton, you can actually go in close there, and then the next one you pull away where he swings and she ducks, so not too tricky, but really you're writing it out almost in such a linear way that um, I think what you have there is sort of almost too many panels on a page. Making it hard for him to like get room to sort of do these sort of things. When you're doing that kind of fight in action, I would say 4 panels.
And that's the thing. I was like the script, I don't even think it was that detailed, but I was just trying to show him exactly the movements for like when he was doing it of like I wanted to make it as few panels as possible while still letting people can infer what just happened. Like you wouldn't get confused by the action sequence itself.
Right.
Like I posted something on Twitter a while ago of a of something he drew, and I can't remember who said it. They're like, that looks way too confusing of like the order of action, and I was like, I I'm like I know that's the pro. And I wasn't mad at him, but I'm like, exactly, that is what I'm trying to explain to the guy. And
I
more or less, he was missing the stuff that led up to the, what's the scene. So it was more or less people didn't know where anybody was on if in the physical landscape of the picture. So all of a sudden you have some guy over here and a guy over there, and you don't know where they came from or why they're there.
okay.
So hey,
So
Denali's in here. Hey, Denali, how you
Oh my
doing?
God,
hey, how's it
sudden
going, guys?
sudden Denali.
Yes. What's
No.
up, guys? So
Okay,
I
so
was
wait,
just
wait, wait. Why haven't you made your avatar? I mean, why? Who's this? Is that you in this picture?
oh no.
Oh,
That's just my
Seth
other
Green?
one.
No, is that
Yeah,
is that a
but
picture of you in there?
no, that's not a picture of me.
Oh, okay.
So,
Because I'm gonna go,
um,
man, those glasses I made were perfect. You actually wear them.
well, I do wear glasses. So
Oh, so that was perfect then. Excellent.
yeah,
So you have to change that picture to that llama.
I'm just waiting for you for the bow tie.
Oh, you wanted me to put a bow tie in it?
You
Yeah,
left the bow tie out. Oh,
I didn't know. Dude, why didn't you say that in the DM?
I did say it.
You did?
Yeah,
Oh, farg.
it's all right. It's all right. It's
No,
all right.
no, it'll be done before I go to sleep. Trust me, bow tie, that's easy.
Yeah.
language. This is a Christian server.
Ooh.
Farg. What is this?
But listening, what your artist, I guess, who was doing the sequential art right there, I would recommend him to listen to Peter Welder talking about exaggerated movement, like operatic movement, because the way that you wanted to describe the picture and like how Todd said in 4 panels, you wanted and like what you mentioned is allowing the reader to infer the motion of action and focus. So like you're winding up a punch, it's an exaggerated wind up. So you know here's a punch that's gonna come. Next panel you follow through. One, two. The same thing movement, and knowing where these what you talked about last night as well, which was the spatial space of the whole scene as well.
Right, spatial
Uh,
orientation to what is
yeah,
going on around the characters and how they're blocked out. Yeah.
Uh, and when you were taught when he did all those small panels, those small panel gives a claustrophobic uh, close up of the characters. And the only way I would imagine having like 9 panels or whatever many panels you had there would be having them in uh, all in shadows, where you're just seeing the movement of actions,
Oh well,
where this
so
is,
you don't want to over silhouette
yeah,
per page. Always have a
but
long shot. Always have if you don't have a long shot, have a full shot, meaning full body shot.
yeah,
But don't do more than one or two
but
silhouettes on a page.
well, the way I was thinking about that, because sometimes you break the rule, is what is the emotion you're trying to convey? And if you're doing silhouettes on the page for the two characters for the action scene, that say you're fighting a mortal enemy and this is very emotional, then you're letting the fight talk to itself, where it's transcending what they are, and you're just seeing the motion and allowing the action speak to itself in those situations. But yes, generally what your Todd was saying is more of a rule of thumb to go around it.
I gotcha.
Hmm.
I don't understand any of it just because I don't I'm not I like artistically talented. I don't get the
So have you ever seen you seen, for example, think of the Matrix Revolution, where where Neo is fighting Agent Smith. Have you seen that movie?
I didn't realize they made a movie after The Matrix. I think I blacked out like everything after it.
Okay. Um, well, you know how they're doing the close up towards the end of the Matrix, where they're
Mhm.
fighting in the thing, and they're just doing the action movement, and there's the close up.
Yeah.
Punch, follow through, punch, follow through. Well, they're conveying emotion between the fight, and the fight is also telling the story. And what you're doing is you don't need to tell every technical punch. You just do the beginning of the punch and the end of the punch. So that's a mechanical thing because you're focusing, you're directing the punch to the next panel. Kind of like what we talked about. If you want to look of what we're talking about, you can go back to Good Dog Press channel where Todd and I and I think
Manny.
John Manny were talking about um, the directions where the artist is leading the eyes to the next panel.
Right,
And
using what he's talking about, using the body language.
mhm,
So if you're gonna show a punch, sort of direct that punch almost like it's an arrow, and the
yeah,
arrow leads your eye, and you're creating this zigzag formation. Um, at some point, maybe I can screen share what I'm kind of talking about, but yeah, this is something we were talking about yesterday.
yeah,
But John, I helped John with on his show with a little bit of that on what he was doing. He had like four figures, sort of thugs going after the girl in her room, and I said, John, create an arrow with those figures, sort of create in the space they're in, make them point to the next panel. And he did that. He actually fixed it and did that. So yeah. So I've been talking a lot about these little advanced techniques to sort of help with um, eye flow.
and then same with Manny when you're talking about the main character Skunk Girl with the skunks and the two other guys, just changing the direction orientation of the skunk tails to the next panel made that where it was kind of good
Oh yeah, it
better.
definitely helped. It definitely helped.
Yeah. So I think you can definitely share the screen, Todd, where
Yeah,
you could
I
show.
can. I know how. I just didn't know if I
Yeah.
wanted to do it
I think it would be a good
today.
representation, to kind of show it because some people are not can't do concept needs more visuals. Some are more visual learners than audio learners, so it would probably be best for those individuals to kind of see it as well. For those
Okay,
who aren't, those
I'll pick up
were
my oh,
Show us Papa Todd.
Because what we're talking about, and these are for your future audience as well, for
Oh,
those current
absolutely.
as well. So when they come back and you're talking about all this, and they're like, "What is he talking about? I don't really understand." At least you have something they can look at and kind of focus on what's going on as well.
Um, let's see. Why aren't these pages showing me? Color final. Let me go to color final. Now, I didn't. You don't always execute this, but I was able to execute this a couple times on one of these pages.
Hmm.
Um, where the characters running.
Run
Oh, here it is.
away!
Here it is. Here it is. Because okay, this is
Hmm.
actually a pretty good one. If you can see my cursor, so this character is running down the hall with his gun to get away so that he gets some room between the fight. And you see how my follow through in the punch is sort of following the character. So you're creating that sort of arrow to the guy running away. Then you come over here to this panel, and these two guys are
Um,
looking at each other. But
mhm.
the way I lit, this guy's name is Blank. He's lit a little differently, so he becomes your focus. I lit
um,
I lit the wall here. See where the bullets are? So the bullets are flying. He's really steady. He's not worried about those bullets. And then
mhm.
I got this guy, right? So this is sort of but he's not saying anything, so he doesn't really attract your attention. But see how he's throwing this little ball, this little gadget? Well, it actually the way his hand is and the way it's coming out of his hand leads to the very next panel. And then the lettering, so then now the lettering picks up leading your eye to the next panel. See the lettering and these are just like a whistle. What he's thrown down is a ball that creates this high-pitched noise.
So before you continue on,
Go ahead.
Todd, I just want to let you know that you have me focus on me, and we're not really seeing anything that you're talking about.
Oh, you're
So
not seeing anything?
yeah, I'm just seeing myself talk.
Oh,
So
crap. Okay, hold
yeah,
on. How do I
so
do
so
this?
yeah, um,
How do I do this?
so have you gone to the three little dots in the corners and hit share screen and all that stuff,
Okay, yeah, share screen.
and then make sure you white box yourself. There you go, and then just go to whatever you're going.
See, thank God I had Denali. We needed you earlier, Denali, because we won't even tell you what happened.
Okay, and then
Oops.
And
there
the good thing is
there you go.
the audience couldn't tell you what happened either.
Because they
Oh,
couldn't
what
hear us.
happened?
They couldn't hear
Oh,
us.
okay. You had yourself muted. You couldn't hear
No,
it. Okay.
sometimes Streamlabs sort of does this thing where it kicks your audio and you got to go and switch it to like the default and then switch it back and it'll pick it back up.
Oh yeah. We do that. That's why we always do the pre-show things. Check the audio stuff because it always does that. Kind of like when we had you on for Fair Speak, we were checking all the audio stuff because it does that.
All right, so
Mm.
here I'm talking about up on the top panel, panel number one. See his follow through on the hit, how it's pointing to the character running away. So I've led your eye right in that panel from what is
Can you
um
zoom in a little bit?
yeah, I can zoom in.
Hmm.
And then he gets one of them phantasm balls and he throws it at
Right. And so the way these characters are lit and the way I lit this wall here with the bullets is enough to focus you there, but lead you towards. I could actually change those bullets and made an arrow, a subjective arrow with them. This guy who's in a panel by himself, really redundant. That's why it was colored the way it was. And then of course Blank is about to throw his little gadget whistle ball, and I'm actually using Blank as an arrow as far as how it's coming out of his hand. Then the lettering actually creates the next arrow to the next panel. So this is all, I mean, I didn't do this lettering, and this page wasn't colored by me. This was actually colored by, his name is Mort Todd, and he used to be the um, editor-in-chief of, there was a
Hmm.
magazine like Mad, but it had a different name, but it was just like that. Cracked. Remember Cracked? Anybody remember
Holy
that?
hell.
Yeah. So he colored this page for me, and he did this
Mm.
thing with the lettering, leading your eye, and he did it down here. Oh my God. So this was very, even though I sort of draw it, see how his elbow leads you? This
Mhm.
elbow over here leads you down over here to these panels, and then the punch, but his second fist is actually overlapping that panel. So this story flow, as far as being as many panels as it um, was really, really executed really well. I mean, it is me, yes, but I mean, I was just like impressed with this. This page impresses me more today because I never picked up on that. He was helping me even more with the lettering. Because once you're done with something, trust me, you don't ever want to see it again. Because that's sort of my thing is the best page I've drawn is the page I'm working on right now. And I'm looking at this and it's actually kind of the story flow of this page is way better than I remember. You know what I mean?
It has a
I
polish
gotcha.
to it that most newcomers don't, and I think that's been the problem that I saw in the early '90s, that they didn't have a good flow, you know, about their story panels when they were doing it. And I do recall like a couple issues where you're like, "What is the art? Looks awesome, but I don't know where they're going. It's all messy, kind of deal." And I think that's something that for like Japanese manga stuff, they excel in showing the direction of that. Now that you've been pointing that out, is that's something that I've noticed that I enjoy when the artist kind of subtly guide me to the next panel where I need to go.
It, it,
Don't
it
eh,
it's a little bit, what do they call it? What is the word I'm looking for? In your mind, it's
Sub
Sublimate.
so yes.
Sublim
subdural hematoma.
No,
what?
that's not it. It's you
Subliminal.
not subliminal, but what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's not. It's more subjective in your mind. It's
Hmm.
all being done sort of in concert with your brain and your eye, so it becomes very pleasant to you because it actually reads really well. Um, I'm gonna actually, these are the type of things that sometimes when you draw a page, you kind of forget. You know what I mean? You kind of forget that you have to create zigzag focus. And again, remember, there's more than one way to skin a cat. This one, I drew it. He also lettered it that way, and oh my God, this is really like I mean, when I look at it now, I'm like, wow, this is really a pro page. You know what I mean? This is just like me at my best at that moment. Granted, I don't like some of the panels. Well, not the panels. I don't like how I captured this guy's blank's face. It looks a little bit inconsistent, a little bit, but um, it really does stand out. It's pretty good. This is actually a good tutorial. I mean, I didn't really want the show to be like this, but you're right. You picked up on something, Denali. I'm glad you pushed me to open up this page because this is a great example of all the different ways that you can actually create pro-looking pages, um, sort of giving you sort of advanced technique.
And then kind of like what you were talking about, that the guy behind was a redundant um, picture right there.
Hmm.
Um, it's something that you probably could have done easier in the back panel when you were doing the wide shot kind of deal, because you said this was a redundant panel kind of deal.
Yeah, I mean, even if this panel wasn't here,
Hmm.
it doesn't really change the
Anything,
action.
right?
And pulling off this is called a peephole view, I think, or
Hmm.
something like that on this ball.
Fisheye.
No, not fisheye, where everything is bending around the spear of the object. Um, it's similar to when you look through a peephole. What you see, but there's another word for it, and I just forget. I remember I had to Google this, how to figure this out, how to bend this hallway that the guy's standing in. But that was something, I don't know. This is of the book. This is one of my first published sequentials. this page is probably the best page of the whole book because, like I said, sometimes you don't. I'll even show you some more because sometimes you don't always draw. Sometimes you forget these principles. You know, sometimes you just forget them, and then you just kind of hack at it. You know. Let's see, I'll pull up this page.
Yeah, you just gotta remember. I mean, you're still the art that you did back then is not the same that you have right now.
No, right,
So it's always good to kind of look back to these pages to see, and this is something that R.T. Bear said as well, and something that he learned while redoing his remastering of Black and White was, oh, I overhatch in these certain areas that I don't really need to, or I do this certain thing this out of habit that
subconscious. Yeah,
subconsciously.
right,
So
right,
it, as much as it's painful to do, after a while, go back and look at your old work and kind of see, you know, think these little mistakes that am I still doing these little mistake subconsciously in
right,
my current work, and that way, it's like, oh wait, I can fix this and make it even better for my future works,
right,
because these are also teachable moments. Your past is also teaching you your present moment as well.
right. See, I got a little handcuffed because this
Mhm.
was I worked with a guy named Paul Cooperberg who used to edit for DC for about 30 years and wrote and created many characters. Chessmate, he created Chessmate. But this is me working with one of these legendary guys, and he
Mhm.
handcuffed me with, look at how many, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine panels. Always, all the time was no less than seven. And I was like, dude, this is so hard for me. This is so old school. You know, I was so handcuffed as an artist at my skill level, going,
Mhm.
God dang, you see my pages, they're actually up here right now because I was in John Malin's live stream. This is my establishing shot. Now, I could have just done page one as only an establishing shot,
Mhm.
but I wanted to add in that my hero, my main character, is sort of sleeping, and see how I laid his body in the black. The black inside his stomach and his chest, sort of the shadow, is creating a line to the very next panel. His nose is pointing down to the buildings, to the cityscape, what you're seeing. So these are little subliminal subconscious arrows that I've done in this artwork to help me move your eye along.
And
Is
even the black shadows of the window and that solid black is pointing you downward, so your eyes is make pointing, guiding it downward as well.
right.
Details.
It's
No, it's awesome. But going back there, I think, you know those are good challenges. I have, it takes you out of your comfort zone to make you improve. So even if he handcuffed you, you learn valuable things,
oh,
because
absolutely.
it forced you to think, how can I make this easy in the eye with the little space that I have to go for.
These shape of the this is panel page two, and the shapes obviously
Mhm.
help. The body language helps lead you. So you're creating this Z along here, and then going back this way. The
Mhm.
cars and the way the girls focused her eyes back that way. But look, then the gun. The gun is pointing right into the next guy's head, leading you to what it's the fear on his face. I want to point out that in the next panel, the focus I want you to have is the fear on his face, so the gun points right to his face. Boom.
That and some guy he's got like a little
So
circle with a slash on it right on his ear. That's these oh,
This is my
guy's aiming
cursor.
everywhere. I know.
so I mean, if you have that fear, would that be a redundant picture, having the close up of, I guess, the monster right there next to him? Because the next page is going to show the big monster.
N- well, well, I only show a little bit of him here
Hmm.
because it was more to get you like, holy crap, this guy, he looks like a monster. But I don't
Right.
give you a full reveal on the next page. You know what I mean? And so,
I
this
I don't know.
page, Go ahead.
I don't. I was gonna say, but it doesn't. The way you have it, and we're going to the next page before.
Right.
I don't feel like that's adding anything more. And I think you're revealing the face too much. I think it should have been maybe a body portion or a leg portion or something, or even
Crotch
take,
shot.
or even take that part, because I feel like compared to everything else, you're not adding anything more to it. You already see by the position of the main of that citizen or that victim
Right.
that this guy is pretty big, and you want the reader to know it's like, okay, I need to keep moving and show me how big this guy is.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and then in the next page where their guns are pointed pretty high, he's obviously pretty
Yeah.
tall. You know, I mean, he's even a little bit in the bottom panel. He's a little bit bent. He's obviously bent over, so he's even
Hmm.
bigger than that. But I did want to get him in. I did want to get his relative value to the size of a normal human. Uh, I wanted to give you enough of him to sort of understand that. Um, so
Yeah.
that's why I sort of
Here,
bent his knees and sort of bent him over a little bit.
yeah. See, here's it's more kind of it tells more of a story compared to just the close up of a face,
Right,
and it builds up that suspension that you kind of with that face with the guy being scared of that face kind of diffuses that tension. So you're kind of it's like the unknown. Then you kind of see him, and he's kind of bent over, kind of like how you see like a hill, but as you get closer, it's like not a hill but a mountain,
mhm,
and you get really closer, it gets much larger,
mhm, mhm.
and that's what you kind of want to know. It's like before you don't see anything, and then you kind of move on, kind of going like that direction. But it's like I said, but yeah, everything you're pointing at, it's like he's big, but but even in that situation, you have a guy pointing downward to say, okay, this is the next panel, um, and then you have him pointing, eating. It's like here, go to your right, keep going to your right, and then you're looking downward back to the guy.
Right.
So, so you're still doing a zigzag.
Yeah, see
So you,
this line, how I did this sort of chain that cops wear. Um, it pointed right to the next panel. So there's little
mm,
things I use, little techniques that this was a tricky page because what I'm doing here is this particular cop who's a reoccurring character in my book,
mhm.
and we haven't really fleshed him out completely. Does he have his own power? But he's very, very cocky. He's doing this moment right here is all he's doing is stalling because he knows because we come into the book. Ignition is in his second year as a hero, so he's trying to stall as somebody might stall to get Peter Parker to finally show up to take care of the Green Goblin. But my character, I use this cop in this way, and he's stalling to get to the point where, Jesus, where the hell's Ignition? Is he gonna show up or not? So he's sort of taunting him with a donut, like, "Hey, I got this nice donut here. Would you like a bite?" So I just threw this in at the last moment because it was one of those scenes I have to draw this. I have to draw a cop um, teasing a villain or this huge monster with a donut because it's never been done before. So I sort of took liberties on the script a little bit in this area. But
Well, that's definitely good. I mean, that's part of the
oops.
artist side of things. You're kind of the director of the what's going on. The writer's the script writer, but you're the director showing the action and how everything goes. And it's not one to one. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. Hopefully, the intention of what the writer wanted is coming out right. And I think that's
I think we're gonna the next one I'm gonna ask for just a little bit tighter, but I don't want to be told draw this here in this angle or choose this shot or this or that. Just tell me what you want to convey, what the focus is, because I want to be left to interpret it and sort of have a spontaneity, uh, as far as my half of things. I want it to be spontaneous. I don't want to be told there are going to be six panels on this page. There's going to be this dialogue that needs to fit in it, and these are the shots I need. I need this to be a long shot from here, showing this, showing that, showing this, because to me that takes away the fun in this particular project for me. I mean, I can deal with those type of things if I'm getting paid by a publisher to follow some guy's script to draw it exactly the way he wants it. But this is a sort of my little baby, and we're bringing in sort of a co-creator, and he's brought a lot to the project. But I want to make sure that I'm having fun with it. I'm having a little bit of fun. Now I'm tripping him up a little bit. He's getting a little mad at me, but I give him plenty of hugs, even though he lives in London. And I say, "Don't worry, just trust me. We'll definitely convey your story, but there might be some instances where I deviate a little bit. But if we haven't gone, we haven't gotten too mad at each other yet.
Well, that's good. That's
So,
fresh.
Chris, now as far as the last snow leopard,
Yeah.
do you guys um, think that you have a campaign that you'll have out at a certain time, or do you even know that yet?
I I I haven't said anything and he hasn't said anything about a timetable. I don't I more or less I need to see the speed at which he works and everything and then go from there. Cuz I hate saying it this way, but I can chuck out a script within a day. Like it's not for me as soon as I have the idea, it just kind of rolls out. And my biggest thing is, like I said, pulling out stills from an animation. Which ones should I use? Which ones do I not want to use? So more or less, it's specific angles I like more than specific things I want to see. Like like he's doing a page. Well, I want like he has the camera angle coming from down and it's too low, and I wanted to and he's apparently he agrees with me of pull it back from the side of a building so you can see past the guy looking out a window, so you can see that the world is living around it. Like you don't have blank space behind a guy through the window. You actually see like his cohorts are in, at least one of them is still in the room. But it's we haven't gotten to the point of like, hey, let's get this thing put out by like January or something like that. Right now, it's just let's get these pages done, see how long that takes, make sure we're on the same page with everything, get him a fleshed out script, let him look at it, so he go, okay, I got you, and we go from there.
Denali, I know you
Mm-hmm.
moderate a lot of shows and you co-host some shows, but
Mm-hmm.
what is your angle? I mean, are you a future creator? Do you have some things in the works? Tell me a little bit about you.
Okay. Well, right now I'm just a fan, working to kind of get the creators and getting people that are getting into the business, helping them out because, building those connections as well. But no, I am participating and working on a couple of scripts myself, for maybe a future comic book or show or something like that, and just going on my own pace. So much ideas and so much things going on, and just looking at everything. But for right now, it's working on fan speak, promoting those who follow kind of the simple principle of what we're trying to do, which is telling a good story, um, being respectful to the customers, and being engaging as well.
Right.
And if you can follow those three things, you're right by me. I'll support you, in what however I can
Now,
on that.
do you moderate on comics on Ethan's show too?
No, Mr. Tandaro does. I
Okay.
moderate on Edwin's and Gary Shipman's um, streams.
Right.
So, and
S-
then you have Chester who does Mike and Gary as well.
So you're gonna have to help me get on Edwin's show sometime as I get closer, as I get some pages colored and stuff.
Hmm.
Definitely help me out. Get on talking to him.
Oh, absolutely. So, what is the project you're working on, or are you unable to say?
Are you talking to Chris here?
No, to you,
Oh,
Todd.
well, I'm working on obviously Ignition. That's the project. You know, the
That's the
book.
project.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'll pull back up some. Let me go back to here. Um,
Yeah, it's that one with the sexy monster nipples on it.
I'll show you a mock-up. One of the very first time I drew Ignition. What the hell? Where'd it go?
So, I think you clicked it off. There you go. Okay.
Now,
Now, is
originally this design was created for a different project that issued. I never got a script for. But the design, right? The design that
mhm.
you see, the coloring choices and stuff like that, is what's called a preset um, gradient. It goes from, if you see here in his leg, you see some purple. You really can't see a lot of the purple in his, down here in his foot. But what it does, it goes from purple all the way to yellow. And so this was an idea for me to be able to color my own work and do it faster. So all I do is I do this gradient, sort of play with it until I get it right. So obviously this gradient goes from its highest point of yellow to its lowest point or its darkest point of purple. And then I sort of add in little touches here and there, little bits of, um, bringing, sort of bringing the colors, the deeper colors in towards the top. And this was just an idea for me as far as um, what color was this guy going to be and how was I going to be able to color this myself and do it fast. And so when I did this, I was like, you know what? I fucking like that. This is awesome. So I stuck with it. Now, yeah, it's a gradient that I sort of manipulate and play with. But as far as coloring his bits of costume that are broken up by these blues, we're talking seconds. And then I just kind of play from there. So it is a way for me to do something fast, but it's also a very pleasing to the eye gradient. Um, you're really attracted to these colors as far as yellows and oranges. They sort of make you happy if you study color theory.
All right. The brighter the color, the more pleasing it is.
Right,
Kind of like the greens and blues, kind of makes you mellow, depressed, depending how dark or light it is. Um, Red, angry, yellow, kind of sunny, happy.
right.
Just yeah,
So
no.
there's the idea that this book Ignition, well, basically I took my character design from that other project and started building on that, and then um, brought the design to a writer that I had already tried to do some things with, but we never really kind of clicked. But I said, hey, let's do this, and I said, this is the box though. This is the box that I want this book to fit in. I want it to be all ages. I want anyone from 12 above to be able to pick this up and have that same kind of feeling that me and you had when we picked up books like Spider-Man in the 80s. I don't know if you guys ever read Starman by James
Yeah.
Robinson and Tony Harris.
Oh yeah, I read that one. That was a really good run right there.
So this is the feel we're kind of going for. This is the idea of this book. It has sort of a retro feel, and that's why you see the thicker paneling that I did with the blacks and stuff. And I'm not trying to do like that page the page two with the angled panels. I'm not trying to do too much of that. I'm trying to give it a certain feel, and not go too wacky with my panel layouts. Even though I do like that, but that's not the feel I'm going for right off the bat with the books. I'm trying to set you up to have a certain feel when you read this and you go, man, this reminds me of 80s comics. This is perfect. This is exactly what we've been looking for and stuff we've been missing. You know, it's not, our subplots are, there's a lot of subplots there, but they're not convoluted. And you sort of get, they have their payoffs. They're not ones that don't ever pay off, like the early X-Men of the 90s and the 80s. These ones will pay off. You'll basically, you'll wanna, if I can get you hooked, you'll want to stay hooked because there's a lot of
And,
interesting things going on in this book.
yeah, and that's what I wanted. I want a book that I want to be engaged with, that that I want to follow, the storyline. I don't want to be pandered with, but I want to have that feeling, hey, this is going to be an awesome story, and I want to see what happens with this character. Um, and I think that's something that's been missing in the current storytelling for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the editors or the writers, or I don't know where the break in the system is happening, but they're allowing too much deconstruction occurring with the storylines, and it gets depressing. It's kind of like the DC movies. It's too depressing. We want something fun. We don't want depressing all the time. We want something fun, adventurous. You know, kind of like the those spirits kind of deal. So yeah, you got me interested with Ignition. Now I'm gonna be keeping an eye on it.
Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's talk a little bit more about Snow Leopard, Chris. You still there, right?
I'm still here.
Snow Leopard, what is your target audience?
Actually, I didn't have like an age group or anything like that. I just want it to be something that it's not. You're not looking at like blood just like splashed all over the place. But I do want there to be you have a seriousness to it. Like if somebody gets stabbed, you're gonna see blood from that stab mark. You're not gonna see blood like splatter everywhere, but you're gonna see that there are there's a response to an action. Like if somebody gets like at one point she gets hit in the head with a coffee table and it cuts open her forehead and you're going to see blood from that, but I don't want that to be the focal point of the picture. It's just going to be something like, "Oh crap, she's hurt." And you start it makes the situation more serious instead of just gory.
Do you,
So I don't know what age group that would run into because PG 13. I don't know what any of that means anymore.
well, we're not falling under any kind of code or anything like that, so I don't think you really have to worry about it in that sense.
I think what I think he's asking about, Todd, is more like, are you aiming for more all ages, kind of like small kids can read it without seeing gory stuff, while adults can still read it? Are you seeing more for teenagers, or are you going for
I'd say
more?
probably more teenagers on up. Like this one, I would. It's not so much that I would be against a kid reading it, but it's the story itself is it. It's not. It didn't start out with it because the backstory is going to be told in dream sequences, and it's going to be more like nightmares. So you're not going to see specific details because I don't think showing somebody club a baby like a little kid with a to death is exactly what you want to see. So it's going to be more kind of subtlety, like these guys are a bunch of bastards, but we're not going to show you anything brutal. So it's more or less. I don't want to get too far into gore or anything. So I'd say probably just teenage on up.
Okay, so it's teenager prefer, well, at least teenagers and up kind of deal. Okay, so yeah, so that's pretty good, because then you need to just know how to kind of market that to parents or to the teenagers who kind of talk about. So tell me about snow leopards. You know, I don't know if you were talking about earlier in the stream about it, and
He
you guys
talked a lot about it, but nobody heard it.
so
It was the greatest story never heard.
so let's try to recreate that for your audience. What is
Okay,
snow leopards
uh,
about?
it's the last snow leopard. The main character is the only one who survived her village getting raised by a ruler who decided. It's kind of set in a time frame that would be similar to feudal Japan, where they disarmed the entire population and said, "You guys can't learn how to fight. It's just we're gonna rule you with an iron fist." But her species basically has developed fighting styles, and they've learned fighting styles from other areas within the landmass, I guess you would consider it. It's kind of like a video game where you have the entire map and it's all just one landmass. Uh, and the ruler's like, you know what? I've warned you guys to stop teaching people how to fight and how to defend themselves, and you guys are apparently using, well, they're using like farm tools as weapons. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna put an end to this problem once and for all. And he sends people to raise the village that they live in, and there's also villages scattered throughout the land. So part of her journey is finding out that she is the last of her kind. Like, but the reason she's on this journey is because they killed everyone she knew. They destroyed everything, and she's like, her vow is, I'm going to kill the ruler or die trying. And the ruler doesn't, like, she sends one of the guys back who raised the village. She broke both his arms and sent him to with a warning that she's going to come kill the ruler. I don't know if it's both arms yet. I haven't decided that part, but so her journey is actually to go to the ruler and kill him.
Okay.
But as she goes, she's gonna go, oh, I need to go and see if anybody else, like if anybody's okay at the other villages. She's going to slowly find that each village has been destroyed, and each town she's going to is, it's gonna be just they're gonna have problems because there's no, the police suck, they're corrupt, they go and extort money from people. I know it. This is set in a time before electricity, but they would be like, it'd be a shame if these electric wires, these things, they're loose. They could start a fire." And
So this is like pre-industrial age kind of idea.
correct, you're not gonna have guns. You're not gonna have, like, you're not gonna have fireworks like they had in. Can't remember if it's China or Japan. They developed fireworks, but where they were actually used as weapons. They don't. It's not gonna be. More or less, she's a fighter, so it's, you're not gonna have, if you had guns, this story
Mhm.
would be pretty damn short. But the
Well,
big thing is she's gonna have to fight people, but she's gonna have to be smart about it since she's a 14-year-old girl. So when you go to fight somebody who's bigger than you have to know how to fight that person, or else you will get destroyed.
right.
Now,
So tell me a bit
oh,
about the world because I'm trying to kind of picture it. It sounds like it's more like a feudal era. If it's pre, fireworks kind of deal, but you're talking about pre-industrial era, kind of like, like the Wild West or a little bit beforehand, where they had like 16th century. So I'm trying to kind of place the idea. Is it kind
It,
of
it, it's gonna be like feudal Japan plus it's gonna be each section she goes to. It, I want to kind of include different biomes. So you're gonna have really mountainous areas with snow. You're gonna have sections that are desert. You're gonna have sections that are more tropical. So it's gonna be her going to those places, but it's all going to be in the same time frame where no one. There's gonna be stagecoaches. There's gonna be water wheels, stuff like that. It's not.
okay?
It's think the Amish.
So
Ooh,
okay, so what I'm picturing is then the more she gets to the capital, the more technological advanced it'll be. But the further she's away from the capital, the more simple rural life is with low technology. And
Correct, except there's not going to be any, there's no giant leaps like the people in the main towns. They're not going to have a train system or anything like that. It's just going to be, they're going to have, they're going to use stuff like stone to build buildings. There is stuff like that where it's, like you said, as you get closer to those main towns, it becomes easier living on those people. It's not going to be perfect, obviously, but
mhm,
you're going to have that people. It's going to be basically how it is in like India right now. You have people who are farmers, people living in crap, and then you have people in major cities who are, I don't want to say they're living high in the hog, but a different caste system.
okay, and I guess there's are these all atom or,
anamorphic.
yeah, animal. Ugh. That
Let's
look
just,
like
we're just gonna keep saying that word until somebody gets it wrong. No, yeah, it's all gonna be basically animal people. It's not gonna be like Zootopia where you're gonna have drastic size differences. Like you're not gonna have elephants who are like 10 feet tall because that, if the second she gets slapped by one of those, it's over. Like the amount of force you're going with is bad news. So, but it's gonna be, I'm trying to, basically like Bugs Bunny. Everybody's around the same height. Foghorn Leghorn's taller than other people, but there's no huge distances. So I'd say probably the tallest person's. It's gonna basically, if you just had people, it's just like that. You're gonna have short people and tall people, but no one obnoxious.
so they're all beast people with
Yes, they're
bestial
beast
traits.
people. The furries
There
are
you
gonna
go.
love this.
Well, gotta
Do
gotta shield for your audience, you know.
do you need
No,
any? Hey, do you need any designs, by the way? Like, you have any characters you need designed?
the only one I like, there's only three major characters in this that are specific designs, and one of them it doesn't even matter. It's like you have the main character, you have the sidekick who's going to join up with her, and then finally you're going to have the king. Everybody else is going to be generic animal people. I I I was just like, I don't want to make anybody too interesting where they start drawing attention from it.
Oh,
Uh,
Jesus.
Oh boy, rookie mistake number one.
No, no,
what's
it's not a
that?
mistake. It was just more of a. I kind of wanted to design a character, but that's okay.
No,
Yeah.
you can. The horse guy,
Hmm.
which, okay, like the guy who I paid to do the comic who didn't do the comic fully. I told him I want him to have a really simple, unassuming horse guy as the other character because like, I'm just gonna spill it. He's gonna walk with her in like the second half of the story, uh, trying to talk her out of doing what she wants to do. Because he's like, "Don't throw your life away. You go into this. You're just it. You are going to die if you try to do this." So he's trying to save her, and it's just like dealing with any teenager. You go, "I don't think you should do that," and you're like, "I'm doing it. The hell with you. I'm doing it. You can't stop." So it's more or less, but he's gonna be a caring person. I
Why
haven't
is he in a
gotten the.
suit?
Hmm?
Why does he seem to be in a suit?
Oh no, that's somebody drew that for, like, that one actually no one even drew that. There's an artist that had a picture that it's not this picture, it's a different one that I did a cross stitch for, so she could sell it as at for a charity.
Oh, okay.
And she gave me this framed
Wait,
picture of
what?
this as
Wait. Cross stitch?
yeah.
What are we talking about? Like knitting or something?
It's sort of like knitting. Basically, you have like
It's in a
a thing of,
circle, right? You have this little frame that you. Is that what that is?
not every time.
Oh,
Sometimes you have an oval.
well, right, but you get what I mean. And
Yeah,
this
you get
is.
that, and you make little egg. teeny tiny X's depending on how many. It's basically if you think of a printer DPI,
I
it's
know
how
what
many
you, yeah,
DPI
yeah,
on there. Yeah,
right. I know what you're getting at, but this is something you do?
yeah.
Whoa. So you're into smut and cross stitching. There's
I'm
something that
into smut and cross stitching. I am.
this doesn't add up here, Chris.
There's a
Which
talents.
part?
It's talents.
There's
He knows
something
how
to
to
this.
cross stitch. He's like Sylvester Stallone in Demolition Man,
Hell yeah.
where he's knitting but he can kick ass.
See, see, he gets it.
Oh boy. Now, is this come from your 4-H days?
Not that I know of. I was only in 3H. They wouldn't let me have that fourth one.
I knew you would bring comedy. Is this why there's animals?
What do you mean?
Well, doesn't that go in? I mean, isn't 4-H about like showcasing your oxen or something like that?
I had my prize pig. I slapped her in the ass and she ran away.
No.
Do you now as far as writing, do you have anything else that you've fleshed out this much or no?
The children's book about the dog, the puppy's first bath.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the other thing I did, and I started developing that whole universe. Like that actually was going to be a the hell do they call that? But a vehicle. That's it. A vehicle for other stories. Like my mom had a stroke, so I wanted to teach kids how to react to not specifically strokes, but just when the shit hits the fan. Sorry for language, but it's like when that happens, like that you don't freak out. You got to remain calm. If your parents are good parents, they've taught you how to deal with it. Like you call 911, you be as calm as possible. So it was more or less I was using that to start teaching kids how to react to difficult situations. Like the one issue was that the mom has a stroke in the book, not nothing catastrophic, but just the kid sees the mom start acting weird, and the kid actually like calls the cops, and it's like be calm, let's get your mom some help and all that. Another one like their other kid gets lost at a baseball game, and it's how do you react to that situation of you got to remain calm. You find an adult that's wearing a uniform and you talk to them and getting help that way.
Now, I have a question
But
for you.
yes.
You did mention when we first started, even though probably nobody heard that actual part, you're your mother's caregiver.
Yeah.
So she obviously was left with some lingering. Sometimes you have a stroke and you almost get back to 100%. Maybe you're at 98, but your mom has something that's lingering that you have to take her in hand, almost that kind of care.
More or less she can get around the house and everything like that. She can't get to like doctor's appointments or she can't drive.
Right.
I make her meals. I make sure she takes her meds because the organizational parts of her brain don't function as they should. Like she could take her pills, but she might forget that she what day of the week it is, even if it's like all organized. And so she'll actually take the next day thinking, "Oh, I forgot to take my pills." So it's more or less kind of that sort of thing.
Right, right.
Now,
So
does she have long
go ahead.
term care?
I am her long-term care.
Oh,
So the effects that she has, they will remain as such.
Yeah, she. It's not so much. I don't think she could ever do her meds on her own. It's just a matter of it's kind of like I hate saying it because it sounds bad, but she's almost a toddler in that sense where they don't have like the steps of what I need to do.
Mhm,
It's just
mhm.
I want to do this thing and I'm gonna do this thing, but it's all the steps in between. So she's not bad. I mean, like I work a part time job now because not so much that we needed money, but I needed to get out of the house and bringing in a little extra money is always going to be helpful. But she's she's fine on her own. Like she go watch TV, go into whatever room she wants to go. She calls people on the phone all the time. So it's she's not bad. She could be a lot worse, but she could be. You would want. I'd always say, yeah, if she's better, that's fantastic too.
Right. Hey, you guys, I want to spend like we're gonna go a little bit longer, but I want to spend a little bit time on things that are trending in comics and sort of get your viewpoints. Talk a little bit about some the current situation of Comicsgate. But I'll start by just saying a few things. One, I aligned myself to Comicsgate, but I did not align myself to a particular person. I'm not here to answer for what somebody might have done wrong in the past or things that might have happened or anything to do with any kind of milkshakes or any of that nonsense. To me, I align myself to the ideology of the fans are not interested in what they're getting in mainstream comics, so they are looking for an alternative, and I'm jumping in that area. I believe in the ideology. I believe in what the fans are asking for, and I want to bring them more than a book. I want to bring them, Denali mentioned. I want to engage them. I want to make them part of my a core base. Keep them interested in what we're all doing. I retweet everybody. We talked a lot yesterday on Manny's show about a community, and this is a great community. We talked about this on Buster's show. This is a great community. This is a great community. So don't think you have to sit here and answer for somebody saying, "Ooh, you joined a hate group." You know what? Screw them. Just don't even listen because you know you didn't join a hate group. What you joined was a community of people looking for a specific thing not to be in their books. It's not that they're looking for a specific book, but they're looking for a specific thing not to be there, for it to be absent. And I certainly can adhere to that because I also believe in it. There were some things that were going on at Marvel as far as an agenda-based thing that I did not believe in. I did not have. I mean, I'm not going to sit around and wait to be able to draw Spider-Man, even though there are 18 books and some of them are drawn really bad. But I have zero interest in being part of that community of drawing Spider-Man. I don't think there should be any Gwen Stacy's alive because she was killed off. So all these other characters that have the name Gwen are abominations, pure and simple. They went way past. For instance, Peter Parker's most biggest things that happened in his life was Uncle Ben, and then Gwen Stacy. To bring her back, even when they did as a clone back in what the 80s, okay, good story idea, not so bad, but all the Gwens that are running around now, that's a bunch of crap to me. So
Yeah.
yes, I did believe in this ideology. I did jump in. I was kind of pushed in, by the way. You can listen to my story on another, the very first show I was on. I was kind of pushed into Comicsgate by somebody who was acting like a false victim. But I certainly agree with what the fans are asking for and what they don't want to be present in their comics. So I'm all in. But I'm not going to say I'm no longer going to answer to the fools who think I joined a hate group. This is not that kind of group. I am not picketing. I am not marching. I don't own guns. I don't own any sheets that are cut with holes in them. What I am is a creator. I'm a comics creator who creates content that I hope you'll enjoy. You may not enjoy it. You may not want to purchase it, but I hope you will because what I'm trying to give you is what you're asking for. Please don't put this kind of garbage in your book. And I won't. I promise you that. Now, my character, my hero, is a little bit of a pretty boy. Um, he's young. He has sort of a very um, a good looking kind of guy, but that's sort of my style. My faces are realistic. If you like Greg Land, you'll like my book. Or if you like, I'm trying to think who else I'm a lot like. Say Butch Geis. If you like his work, you'll like my work.
You
I'm
got me
sort of
on that. You got me on that.
so.
Okay,
You
but
got a man.
right there.
So as far as the community goes, that's who I am. You know what I mean? Yes. If people don't want to like me anymore because I align myself with this movement, that's fine. that's fine. But oh, so I'll talk a little bit about what's going on. Because I've had to answer these questions about somebody who I've never met. I've only watched a few of his videos. I wasn't around on Twitter. I mean, I was on Twitter, but I didn't really post a lot, or I didn't really interact ever on Twitter because it just wasn't my thing. But obviously, he said some things that weren't very nice, and he's apologized for them. If I were to get on his show, I would have no problem with that, or no problem. But what does it mean to be aligned to somebody? I'm not aligned to him. Could I become his friend, or could I like his show? For sure, for sure. But this guy's not. He's not going to become part of my life. He's not going to be my neighbor. He's not going to. He might purchase my book, or I might purchase his. I'm going to do so at my will. So if you're going to sit here and start throwing stones at a glass house because you think I'm part of some, oh, you've aligned yourself with Richard C. Meyer, really? What have I done? Because I don't really know him. I've aligned myself with the fans who he started talking to and sort of breathed the movement into these people that they do not want certain things to be part of this book, and they're sort of sick of the agenda that is being pushed by the corporate mainstream comics of, oh, let's bring in this, or let's have our character walk around with a purpose, or let's all of a sudden put all these females together because of course that would happen in Avengers world. We're going to have the A Force. Come on. So I'll let you guys speak a little bit about your uh, why you chose to become, or sort of align yourself with this movement, and what you think of current things that are going on. But I hope Richard Meyer wins and beats the heck out of Mark Waid in court. To be honest, I'll
Well,
tell you a
I'll
little
go.
story afterwards about me meeting Mark Waid. Go ahead.
So I'll go first. Let me. I pulled up Comic-Con. Everybody whose comics would know Comic-Con. Let's see the comparative sale statistics for this month versus last month. Negative 5.3% of total comics and graphic novels, minus 0.48% units sent. Compared to last year, um, they're saying that it's increase of 3.84%, but minus 5.09% shipped. But you also have to look at that they raised the price from 2.99 to 4.99 at that time. So you're really saying that there was more money made because but a fewer unit shift because of the raised price, but your overall loss is almost 6% of money. And you know where the 6% went? You can go to Indicron, um, which is built with this community. And you know how much money in those months we have raised? $2,293,257. There's where the 6% went because we're a small community, and
Right.
we're ever shrinking community, and we're a dying industry that the mainstream for whatever reason is not realizing, not picking up on that fact. And I don't want to lose this comic industry because they don't want to realize it. they're they're telling poor stories, they're pushing away customers, and they're doing everything to run into the ground when we're all asking and saying, please treat us with respect. We want reconstruction of comics. We want, inspirational comics. We want good storytelling. We want fun comic books. We want, ha- to be taken to a journey, to an experience for a time, to get away from the reality that, we have to deal with. We don't want reality in front of our face. That's what when we're reading it. It's too much. And, you know, I'm not the person who's gonna shout it out. I'm not the person who's like you, Todd, march it out. What I am gonna do is I'm gonna vote for my wallet with my wallet. And if you're not gonna provide me the product that I want, then I'm gonna find it or I'm gonna create it. And this is what I like about this movie, is that we're not gonna wait for the pros to wake up. If there's nobody who's going to do it, then we might as well jump in into the pool and toss our head in and develop something, and learn from each other and have that network building. Whether it's printing, whether it's distributions, we'll figure it out. Marvel, DC, they're when they think, oh, those are a big company. Remember, they started small and they got big over time. And nothing says they're going to stay big, because if they don't have the customer base, if they don't have anybody who's going to support them, it's not going to matter in the long run if they're with Disney or whatever, because we're not going to support those company, you
Look,
know.
I'm gonna share something. Hold on here.
Mhm.
Just go to my let me white box me, hide. I'm gonna go over here to look. That's the state of your comic book company. That is, count them, 17 Spider books. 17. Spider-Man is the best character, your linchpin character, your most iconic character, and all of a sudden, in 1 month, you're gonna have 17 different Spider People books. Absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Was that about $68 worth of comics right there? Unless some were over the.
Good point.
Wait, no,
You
is
know
it
how,
$4.99?
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh Jesus, that's it's almost $200. Like if
yeah.
after tax and everything.
You know how many books I've gotten of those Spider-Man? Zero. You know what happened in the 90s? The same thing, where Marvel and DC were having three different titles with three different crossovers with three different characters to get one complete story. And you were ending up to buying 32 different titles to get one complete story. And they wonder, why did the bubble burst? Because you were liquidating, making diluting the story so much that, and making it so hard for people to follow the storyline, that people got tired of it. It was bad stories, bad storylines, bad, diluted over multiple titles, and you made it difficult to get it. So if you don't get one issue or this title to move on to the next part of the story, you will never get the complete story until you get a like trade back. Who in their right mind wants to work at getting a story? You know, it's kind of like Paul Dini, the writer who's famous for Batman, the anime series, and the
Mm-hmm.
creator of Harley
Mm-hmm.
Quinn. He said the art could be great, but if there's no story, good story behind it, it's worthless. And I follow with that. If the story isn't, the story will help or break the art. If the art is good, the story if the story is excellent and the art is good, it will push up the comic book further.
Mm-hmm.
If the story is bad, the art can only push it so long until people get bored with it. You can draw the amazing Spawn, or you can draw the amazing Superman, but if the story sucks, people are just going to stop purchasing. It doesn't matter how amazing your art is if
Right.
the story behind it is worthless.
Now, Chris, is there something that drove you to sort of align yourself with Comicsgate?
Uh, Honestly, I don't align to any like specific group or anything like that. I'd say I am Comicsgate in the sense that I just want them to stop screwing with with comic books. Like everyone keeps bringing up the point of, oh well, comics have always been political. They've always looked at the social issues of the time. Yes, they did, but they were subtle about it. I mean, yeah, you had Captain America punching the Nazis, but guess what? World War II was kind of going on, and it was Captain America. He's gonna punch a Nazi. Now it would be if they did it. Well, obviously they are doing it now, but if Captain America was created now, he would be punching people at the various rallies. Like there's the Patriot Prayer Group. He'd be going there and they'd have him punching those people, and it's like the main guy for it. I think he's like Asian. He's Asian, or he's like well, Filipino is Asian, isn't it? But you
Yes.
have them punching these people who are just like, we're the prayer group. We are literally praying that you people stop punching people. And they're like, well, you guys are Nazis. We're going to punch you. But it's inserting stuff ham-fistedly. Like, they don't do it surgically. Like, we're going to tell a subtle story that works with you. It's like, if you look at All in the Family, yes, Archie Bunker was a sack of crap, but he was how people saw that behavior was crap, and you didn't want to be like Archie Bunker because everyone's laughing at you or everyone hates you. So it was like, it was subtle. Yes, it was subtle in the sense that it's teaching you how to be a better person. This, it's just like, they don't have a thing saying like, not everyone is like this. They're not like, right now comics are pointing a finger at everybody and telling them they're sacks of crap. And like that, they're showing virtue of an identity that, it doesn't even matter what the identity is. They're showing you, this is the virtuous one, the one who's like, who's not the white guy, who's not the white superhero, who's not the white chick. It's like, let's calm down. Let's, if that's the way you want to go, you have to be more subtle about it. You show why the person is virtuous. You don't just tell us that they are. Like, Captain America wasn't Captain America because he's this guy. His virtues shown through by his actions. Superman, he did good stuff because that's the kind of guy he is. It wasn't that he was like, he's cool because he's a white dude. He's cool because, look at this guy. He just lifted a bus off somebody. A dude got, the tractor fell on him, or the truck fell on him. He's like, little kid, and he's lifting up the truck. It's that's you. I just, for me, Comicsgate is like, was more a thing of like, we're gonna point out what you guys are doing, like, that just sucks really bad. Maybe it's art, maybe it's your stories are pathetic, maybe like, you're telling stories that victimize people who aren't, like, who don't deserve it. Or it's just, it frustrates me that these people are doing this to, they have these positions where they can tell a story and it could be amazing, and most of these people could physically do it, and instead of doing that, they're putting out crap that no one wants to read. And then when everybody's pointing at them, go, stop, look at your sales, they suck, you gotta do something about it, and it can't be more of the same. it they don't have that introspection of like, gee, I screwed my life up. Where did it go wrong? They just keep going, guess what? We're Thelma and Louising this whole industry with us, and just like, there's the Grand Canyon. And I'm just glad that the Comicsgate community has has taken the initiative of, okay, since you people don't want to look at kind of better stories or different stories, we're going to do it ourselves. Some of them are going to suck completely. Some of them are just going to be amazing. And it's not so much that you have to buy the comics, but it doesn't seem like there's any comics that point out like, this type of person is better than anyone else. It's just, here's some stories about some things. You have Wanpool, who's I don't know what the identity is. It's like, there's like 7 or 8 different things that it involves, but it's all a matter of, here's just a story. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna revolve around just the character and his identity, but the identity isn't as important as what he is doing, and that's something that I like. That frustrates me about the comics that like Marvel's putting out that are like Miss Marvel, and it's just, it's so focused on what she is as opposed to who she is, and she sucks as a person. And it's like, every person who comes like, oh, tell me about yourself, and they tell you about what they are. I'm a black person, I'm a trans, I'm gay, I'm bi, or whatever it is, and it's like, that's not interesting. I mean, I'm sure you're an interesting person, but the idea of me asking you about yourself is for you to go, oh, well, I like doing this and I like doing this. So you can, once you learn about somebody, you're less likely to not like them, unless they're a sack of crap. But if somebody goes, let's say like with Boston, they go, "Oh yeah, I'm a Red Sox fan," or "I'm a Bruins fan," and if you're a Red Sox fan or a Bruins fan, you go, "Oh yeah, and you start talking about the team. They become interesting that way, and that's what's lacking from Marvel Comics and DC right now is that there's no focus on why are these people interesting? Like, why should I care about these people? Because right now they just are a bunch of jerks. Look at Iceman. It, it bothers me. It's like, look, I like dudes. I like chicks too, but I like dudes. And it's like this type of person, I just want to go and punch him right in the stomach.
Right. And
He's got a
the thing,
backwards B on his hat. I don't even know what that means. It's probably a Celtics
Oh, you saw that?
hat.
yeah,
Yeah.
but but the thing that what you mentioned, Chris, let me see.
Was it the I like dudes part or was it the I like chicks part?
No, it was something else that you mentioned that I was gonna follow up with, but you kind of threw my thoughts out of the window with the Celtic comment. um, but yeah, no, I definitely agree. This is why this community can thrive. Because we're not waiting for Marvel and DC and the other companies to wake up. They have already told us that they don't want our money and they don't care for us, and they chain block us. I didn't know I was chain blocked until I started seeing one-sided response from people I did follow. It's like, oh, this person chain blocked me because of people I'm following. That's a loss of a potential customer right there. you know would I have been interested in your work? You know what? I don't know, but now at this point, I have no I don't have any reason or any any inclination to actually follow through and get your books. And those other authors that chain block and call us that, I used to be fans of them, and no longer. I'm not going to purchase any of their works, you know, past or uh, present or future. They'll be saying, "Fine, that's your right," and I was like, "Good, that is my right." And I'll just walk away. I'll find the authors, I'll find the artists, I'll find the talents that will produce the works that I'm interested in, with the values and principles that I can align well with. And if I can't, if in good conscience aligned with them, then either I'll ask for I won't pay them and move on, and continue doing that, and moving from there.
Let's close out with
Hmm.
we're going to talk a little bit about our character, right? I'm going to tell you a little bit about Ignition himself.
Hmm.
Okay, there's a little bit more meaning to the word ignition, right? There's that he's sort of a catalyst to what's going on in his world. There was a hero, his name was called the Mighty, and he cleaned house, killed heroes, villains. Some went into hiding. Some have just sort of disappeared. Some suspected dead that may not be dead. Some have been reanimated. But the idea behind his name, Ignition, should give you a little bit of an idea of what's going on in his world. That it's a catalyst, something is about to happen. So there's more than meets the eye here. This is not, um, granted, this is sort of a retro feel as far as a book goes, but it's very modern take on a hero. Now, as far as the type of character is, being that he's a flame character, he is a cross between Human Torch and Green Lantern, whereas he doesn't just have a fire that sort of is around him, or he could shoot fire out from his hands, or that there's sort of a flame that sort of follows him in his airstream or something like that. He can actually construct things out of flame. So when he's fighting Alpha, what you're gonna see is a little guy inside of sort of a flame armor. So he's gonna be fighting him at the same size, but it's gonna be sort of a flame looking person or entity around him. So that's the difference between my character and say Human Torch or Starfire or what's the guy, the
You just gotta be
Japanese guy.
careful. You gotta be careful with Starfire because we have the Pope around. No, Starfire #1 fan.
But I mean, I don't even mean that Starfire.
Yeah,
Uh, but
The good Starfire. You meant the good one.
or what's Angelica Angelica from Spider-Man and Amazing Friends? What was her name?
Firestorm.
Firestorm. My character is a flame character, but his flame is sort of tied to magic. So just to give you an idea of how different, you're not going to get Johnny Storm. He might seem to appear to have the same looks as Johnny Storm does, but for instance, this little avatar that I created is just me playing around with the idea of that he'll get so hot on the inside that you'll see his skeleton kind of glow through his skin where there is no costume, so to speak. So that was just me sort of playing around. Now that's not exactly the look I was hoping for, but I'll get there, and that's a tricky image to do. That's sort of an image inside of an image. And I used some effects and stuff like that. There's like 6 different layers and stuff, but it's not quite what I had in my head, but I'll eventually get there. Coloring is, I think of myself this way. I can draw, I can draw great, I can ink good, and I can color okay.
No, yeah, it kind of reminded me when I looked at that the first time. It kind of reminded me of Ghost Rider with the flaming skull. To be honest,
Yeah,
but no, no, no. But regardless, what we can, we adhere to the principle of good storytelling, giving the creators a insight to their work with the audience, building that community, building that experience with the your potential customers and fans that will fall, and and being respectful. And I don't think that's asking a lot um, from creators.
right. Hey Chris, tell us exactly who the last snow leopard is, as far as her, from the inside out.
Let's see. Her name's Siphon, and more or less, I grabbed it from Bruce Lee. That was what his parents named him. They named him a girl's name because in their family, it was like they became superstitious because they lost a son. And they're like, "Oh, it's demons," and that's that's how it was back then. It probably still is, but I don't know. Uh, she she was raised by the village, but her father was still around. Uh, he it was more she was raised sort of like Shaolin monks, where they train constantly to perfect their martial arts. They she was, I hate to say this, but I'd say, I don't want to say abused, because that's not what I would consider the kind of training they did to kids, where they would just like they'd toughen up their bones by having them kick like a banana tree with their shin just to strengthen the bones that way. Um, but it's not that she didn't have a happy childhood, but it was always with purpose. So she was like, you have a duty to help everybody you come in contact with if they need help. Uh, so she was training to be just another of the snow leopard kind that would go out into the world to help out where it's needed, to train people how to defend themselves, since the ruler has pretty much just let everything go and is just collecting taxes from people to, it's that standard. It's stereotypical that way. She she is at this point she's going to be emotionally vulnerable, in the sense that she is completely alone now. She's a Part of what intrigued me about her was it's a 14-year-old girl who has lost everything, and how she reacts to situations. Like it's at one point she's actually going to be hiding in a tree in a town. So like as she finds out she's wanted, she has to not be visible while she's up in a tree one time, and there's going to be a father reading a story to his son, and it's just going to have her break down, and then he's going to hear her crying in the tree, and it just, he says you need to come in here, and it's just that emotional avenue to look at just how she is functioning. And then over time, she's going to start realizing that each town she goes into, life sucks for these people in here. She can help all she wants, like right then. Like maybe they are having trouble with like their uh, their water or something like that. She can help them with water, but it doesn't change their situation. So as she gets on her journey, she's going to start feeling the pressure of, I need to do this not just for revenge, but it has to be me putting an end to the struggle of these people who are just so oppressed by it. And I'm not doing it as like an allegory of, oh, Trump's oppressing everybody or anything like that. It's just a matter of the situation of that time frame where once you get somebody in power, how do you get them out of power? Like you, more or less, you have to kill the king to the free the people. So it's all that. I consider it a character study of that. This could have been a boy, but I was like, this is gonna the emotional stuff you're gonna deal with a teenage girl of and she's close to her father. It's that emotional connection. I thought that was gonna be more interesting. And then once I got that, it was like one of those things. I can't change it. There's no reason to change it. I like who she is. So that's pretty much who Siphon is. It's just this girl who is in a situation where it's a runaway train. She is going in this direction, and she will not. She more or less will not kill unless she is forced to. But like in every situation, her first objective is to not so much maim, but to take somebody down and subdue them over hurting them. And if she has to hurt you, she'll hurt you. She'll cut you. She'll bite people if if that's what she has to do to get out of the situation. Um, if you've seen the pictures, she has real long hair, like hair in a ponytail.
Mm-hmm,
At
mm-hmm.
one point, she will actually, like, somebody will have that in her hand and she will cut that off to get away. So it's more or less that sense of she's almost like a trapped animal that she will do whatever she has to finish it, but her first inclination is not to do harm, it's to do good. But yeah, that's and then like the horse dude is just a father figure that just kind of
Goes along for the ride and tries to convince her to
Mhm.
not be
Right.
so bad. I take it.
well not so much to not to be bad, but he knows what's he more or less he's an adult, so he's like he sees this kid who's so full of anger over the situation she's in, and just in that direction, like she's gonna go kill the king. So he's like, if you go and do this, you're gonna die. So it's he's trying to stop her from just throwing her life away in that sense, like literally throwing her life away. So he's just trying to protect her from herself. So
Right.
so kind of like a Jiminy Cricket in the sense of like, hey, don't go there. You're gonna die, stupid. But the snow leopards, like, one thing I'll tell you about, it's like one of those little Easter eggs, is that those practice dummies that they use for martial arts,
Mm-hmm.
those are going to be pretty much everywhere that the snow leopards have interacted with people, and not so much that the people owe them anything, but to show like kind of like a safe house. Like if they ever need help, this place is trustworthy of like a snow leopard to go and like if they need like food or shelter or something, you just go there and they're like, okay, here you go. Well, the one way that's going to be an Easter egg is that if there's a blue ribbon on the dummy, it's a safe place, and if there's no ribbon on the dummy, that person can't be trusted. So it's going to be one of those Easter eggs that it's going to be subtle, but as the story continues and you see more of it, it starts tying it all together.
Now, is that an Easter egg sort of homage type thing?
No,
No.
I was it was just one of those things. I want people to start noticing little things within the story that kind of like you'll know like the hotel in the comic that John's drawing is going to have a dummy without a ribbon on it.
Mm-hmm.
So and then if you read another issue like two or three issues down and you're like you see one with a ribbon and then you see one in issue 2 that had a ribbon and then you see one 4 or 5 issues down that didn't have a ribbon and that person was a jackass, you start going, wait, did I notice that? And you go back to another issue and you go, oh crap, and it's gonna. I don't want to say it's gonna be obvious because it's probably not, but it's one of those things. I just want to put that little detail in there for anybody who goes, oh wow, that's interesting. This person's psychotic.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna if everyone goes silent, I'm gonna play a little bumper music to get us out, and then I'll close this out, and we can say a few things after. All right.
Okay.